How to deal with negative coworkers. The first thing, like the genesis, the definition of the term, negative, stands for something which possesses qualities or characteristics which are far and further from being liked. The elucidation of the phrase, a negative coworker, can be put across as a workmate who possesses qualities or characteristics which are far and further from inducing and introducing the tendency of being loved or liked by other coworkers. This means that as a consequence of this category of coworkers being in possession of qualities or characteristics that are opposite of being favorable, they are referred to as negative coworkers. The statement, how to deal with negative coworkers, stands for the method or strategy of dealing with workmates who possesses negative features, while the study of how negative coworkers are dealt with is the methodology in this perspective. Just as every geographical region of the Earth planet have negative beings, never expect all coworkers to be positive. To this end, one can decide to give an utterance without performing a mutterance by saying that negative coworkers can definitely be found at work environment. What is important is not to forever grumble and mumble by dint of existence of coworkers who possess negative qualities, but it is indispensable, like what is non-dispensable, to perform actions that free you from being reliable and liable to the condition and situation of being affected and effected by the negativity of negative coworkers, or being left in a state of experiencing more possibility and probability of never being treated with positivity even once, if not twice or thrice, in a blue moon. Negative coworkers can be compared to headaches, which cause more pain and aches plus a nuisance to other workmates. For this reason they act as stress causers and not stress relievers to other individuals at work sites, because instead of being painkillers to kill stress, they act as pain bringers who bring stress to some of their fellow coworkers. In a mathematical number line, the numbers run from left to the right, with the negative numbers located towards the left and positive numbers located to the right, with zero value existing at the center to not only act as a midpoint but also as a point of separation which separates the negative and positive numbers. Therefore, for any negative number to attain the state of being positive, it has to surpass zero in order to be greater than zero, by additionally being summed up with a much greater positive number in order for it to undergo a transmutation and change of state from being negative to being positive. This gives an impression that positive numbers are always ahead of negative numbers while negative numbers are behind. From this outlook, it can be said that being negative means being found at the back and not in front, and also it means lacking positive entities. Furthermore, it is not easy to find an individual with no character. This is because an individual must either have positive qualities which conveys and relays a fact that such a person is positive, or an individual can have negative qualities which shows and displays another fact that such a person is negative. The third case is where an individual can have two different attributes which are being positive and being negative, just as the statement which states that every good thing has the negative part of it. In addition, a person can have his or her areas of strength and also his or her points of weakness. Therefore, it is difficult to find many perfect people with hard personality who neither make mistakes nor have points of defections or flaws. The other different case which is difficult to find is a person who don't have both positive and negative qualities, or an intertwinement of both, which makes such a person to be classified as a person with zero character or no character. In this world of more than 4 continents, if you are positive or negative, you will still have enemies, and there is another statement of Paul Newman which states that a man without enemies is a man without character. When a coworker adds to him or herself character traits such as more negativities, he or she becomes a negative coworker. In addition, if a positive coworker is negatively affected by the negative characteristics of the negative coworkers, the positive state of existence of such a coworker becomes more possible and probable to getting into a negative condition by dint of being affected and effected by the negativities of a negative coworker if one, negative coworkers if many, or a bunch of negative coworkers if more than the countable many. This stays in agreement with the statement that was stated by another person, which states that, you cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. Before making more progressive procession about every trick of this theme, it is something of substance to draw attention to countable characterizations practically made to come into manifestation by the negative coworkers due to their habitual or perpetual nature. The following are the character traits of negative coworkers. 1. Their actions and reactions have a higher probability, same as possibility, of making them appear undesirable in the sight of others. This causes the zeal and zest of other employees who wanted to work with them to undergo aversion and subversion for diversion of their attention to be directly directed to themselves or to other workers who have a positive nature. 2. Their actions makes them appear unfavorable to others. The limpid rationale for this is by dint of their actions having a likeliness, same as likelihood, to cause a damaging effect to their fellow colleagues. On account of this, some workers won't bear working with them for a long time due to expecting the nature of outcomes to be pessimistic and not optimistic. 3. They possess a higher likelihood of engaging in disagreements with other workers. The proximate cause for this is that they can inhold the propensity of performing actions which their fellow work colleagues deem as unpleasant. 4. They may not easily fit to work with other workers due to their negative nature. This apparent and unfeigned reality is similitude to the proverb that states, "Oil and water don't mix." 5. They have a higher tendency of developing more enemies at workplace, and for this reason they are normally disliked by some of their workmates as a consequence of having qualities that award them a reward of dispreference instead of preference. 6. To darken and blacken situations, they may not handle themselves in a civilized fashion upon being subjected to vexing situations. This is because they can possess wicked, evil, vile or vicious characteristics. 7. They can be unforgiving when offended. This can lead to them holding grudges as hatred and dislike towards other workers become part and parcel of their livelihood. From there and thence they can transmutate their feign upon being annoyed by their fellow work colleagues, a transformation which will lead to emergence of a deadly scenario of them planning and conducting revenge and Cold War missions from time to time without giving up to harm workers who tort them off. This will lead to them raining on the parades of their fellow coworkers, sabotaging their professional progress and causing them more harm than good at work environs. 8. They may not mind their own business, since they could like engaging themselves in other workers' affairs, including matters which are none of their business. The likes of this code of conduct can successfully pay attention to taking part or lending a hand in being talkative, backbiting other employees who are not in their presence by the time, practically performing a slandersome conduct and defaming the reputation of their fellow employees, and to make matters worse, dishonoring their employer in their secret slander grounds. 9. Negative coworkers have a higher probability, same as possibility, of hurling insults and offensive words at their fellow employees, including underestimating them. The next phenomenon that can transpire like what one inspired to perspire is those coworkers whom they have hurt being emotionally hurt. The condition of being emotionally hurt become met as a consequence of the victim of this situation facing humiliation and disreputation after more insults to injury become added instead of meliorative actions being done by the individuals holding such a person to account. This situation of stress stimulates the victims of these scenarios to undergo oppression and depression. Then perhaps they can choose to take a break from work for some periods of time upon deciding to be absent with apology, a move that impels and propels them to go to a leave of regaining back the original state of health upon healing from the situation of shame and disgrace. In addition to providing a transparent exposition of the different states of quagmire that can be turned on by negative coworkers, it is indispensable, like what is non-dispensable, to offer an offer of strategies that can be employed strategically in dealing with negative coworkers. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be instigated by negative coworkers, you're gonna have to act like a valid actor, which is doing the right thing, at the right time, at the right place, to the right group of individuals and in the right way. This will kill more potential blame and nuisances that negative workers can impel to propel before talking about due to weaknesses being rare and scarce in you. Negative coworkers like engaging in where matters go wrong. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be stirred up by negative coworkers, you will have to mind your own business. You will be required not to invade other workers' domain of responsibility, and you won't be recommended to perform professional tasks which you are neither required to perform. This is similar to the proverb that states that, good fences make good neighbors. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be agitated by negative coworkers, you will have to practice care and courtesy at workplace. You will be required to handle work equipment carefully to minimize damages and breakages. You will have to be watchful in your tasks, while walking or moving, to avoid unintentional knockovers which can cause accidents followed by shame and disgrace. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be exponentialized by negative coworkers, you will have to be hardworking and avoid laziness. Laziness will make negative workers to be pessimistic about you and channel blames on you. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be orchestrated by negative coworkers, you will have to have anger management techniques when subjected to provocation in order to practically put them in place in case they cause you annoyance intentionally and unintentionally. Some negative workers can annoy coworkers who haven't done them any wrong because that is their habitual and perpetual conduct. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be stimulated by negative coworkers, you will have to avoid taking part in slander or backbiting in order to avoid paying the penalties of being caught red-handed, since it can lead to shame. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be turned on by negative coworkers, you will have to do your professional tasks without areas of errors in order to kill more potential fault-finding that can be channeled unto thou. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be perked up by negative coworkers, you will have to correctly and carefully follow instructions given at workplace, as well as avoiding erroneous reports, misunderstanding, misinterpretation and miscommunication of information which can place you in a situation between a rock and a hard place. In order to prevent suffering from the inconvenience which can be turned on by negative coworkers, you will have to love yourself, focus on your professional progress and success, in addition to choosing a peaceful decision of not just inviting everyone into your list of friendship. For this reason, placing limits will be of necessity in conjunction with having strong personal boundaries. The last thing, which is not a least thing, is that in order to avoid being negatively affected by negative coworkers, it is your choice to make a decision of choosing whether you should develop a deep friendship relationship with them or not. The advice which Mark Twain gave about negative people quoted that, "Don't walk away from negative people, run." Over and above that, there are much more ways in which negative workers can be dealt with, but what matters is practically knowing and performing infallible actions which will put at bay your predilection of being affected negatively by the negativity of negative coworkers.